Hello all, this is James Johnson, aka Sulfurblade, and I am here with another review of Star Trek Discovery, Season 2, Episode 8. And I am actually impressed. Yes, mark it down on the history books, folks. I'm probably going to say more things positive about this episode than I ever have in a Star Trek Discovery review. First off, for once, I liked the opening. Granted, it was actual footage from, well, Pike and the original one of the original pilot episodes, and I quite enjoyed the throwback, the nostalgia of it. One thing that was kind of bad about it is it certainly showed the difference between the filming technology of that day and current, and that's one of the issues I have with Star Trek Discovery as a whole, is it just doesn't feel Star Trek. It's too fancy, and uh, you know, it oftentimes feels fancier than the Next Generation. It oftentimes feels fancier than any Star Trek before it, and it doesn't fit in the timeline because of that. But I did definitely enjoy the opening of this episode for once, which got me off on the right foot, I think, and I was a little less cranky after not hearing some horrible Burnham monologue that, well, the rest of the episode started to fall in line pretty nicely. So there's so much stuff to talk about in this episode. Let's first talk about Talos. We find ourselves on Talos, and it was kind of an interesting walk down memory lane. I quite enjoyed, for the most part, I enjoyed Ethan Peck. And that surprised me because, well, I don't enjoy the fact that they're bringing Spock into Star Trek Discovery, but he did all right. Now that Spock wasn't a blubbering lunatic, we got to see an Ethan Peck who I think did an admirable job trying to be Spock, though he was no Spock. He did go about the part, I felt, fairly admirably. The Telosians themselves, I didn't think they looked too horrible. I would have liked their heads to be bigger and for them to be shorter in stature, but they still looked like Telosians nonetheless. So yeah, there's that. So I wasn't dismayed by the new Telosian appearance. I would have liked it to be more like the original Telosians, but it wasn't a horrible change. It wasn't something like what they've done to the Klingons in the past. It didn't make me want to rip my face off. Vina. Vina, again, was a bit different than the original Vina, but overall I thought Vina did a pretty good job. She didn't make me want to stab myself because there was a total inconsistency with the canon. No, I thought Vina did a pretty good job being Vina, and I was actually quite impressed by that. The main parts of the whole thing down on Talos that I didn't like was Burnham. I didn't like Burnham coming off the shuttlecraft holding her phaser. I didn't like Burnham's whole pointing the phaser at Vina, who's in the shuttlecraft, obviously not making any threatening movements towards Spock. This is a humanoid life form. The mission of Starfleet is one of discovery and exploration and peaceful interaction, but no, she has to point the phaser at Vina and say something along the lines of, in my culture, the person holding the phaser asks the questions, which was just so stupid. But I digress. Burnham is just a walking travesty. But then we started getting into the visions of the past. And I must say that I loved seeing Burnham get killed. That was like the highlight of the episode. I got to see the character I've wanted to see die actually die. It was like, yeah! Woohoo! No, Spock, don't save her. Don't save her. Let her die. The world would be so much better for it. But sadly, Spock saves her. Damn him. So there was that. Eventually, we get into things on the Discovery itself, and we have some pretty interesting scenes on the Discovery. We have some more Tyler and Pike bonding. And for some reason, Tyler was more stomachable in this episode. I guess because the whole episode so far has been more stomachable. So when Tyler came on, I didn't feel like crashing my head through a wall quite as much. I don't know. Tyler might be starting to win me back. Maybe a little bit. I really don't like that character, but I came out of this episode hating him a little less. So, yeah, maybe the Tyler and Pike interaction is starting to help. And then we had the interaction between Commander Stamets and Hugh. I thought Hugh was great in this episode. I love some Hugh in this episode. I thought Hugh did a great job. And it pains me to say that because Hugh's been a complete jackass to YouTube lately. And I want to say that he did a horrible job, but I can't because he did a freaking amazing job in this episode. He may have been the single best acting in the whole thing. But most of his interaction in this particular episode seemed like drama for drama's sake. I don't know why he was in the episode. None of his character seems to be relevant to anything, to be honest. It just seems like he's there for drama. But I enjoyed his drama. I enjoyed his character. I enjoyed his very unique transformation to a new person. And I'm liking this new Hugh. And I'm disliking Stamets being a blubbering idiot who's clingy and needy and can't get over his lost love and blah 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 blah. Stamets just needs to suck it up and get over it already. I don't want to see any more of Stamets on the other side of the house. So on the Hugh side, I'm enjoying it. On the Stamets side, I'm not enjoying it. Together, they even themselves out, and the scenes are basically why are we seeing this? What is the purpose? How does this play into the actual role of Star Trek Discovery and where we're going in the future? At this point, it just doesn't seem like it's going anywhere, other than the fact I have a sneaking suspicion that Hugh is the Red Angel. I've thought Hugh was the Red Angel for a long time now, and I still think Hugh is the Red Angel. And if so, I do like where they've gone with this, if that is the case, because Hugh is starting to feel, well, like a badass. I'm liking his new character. And because Hugh is obviously made up of tardigrade DNA, it means that he can travel through time without getting all disjointed. because he's got as much tardigrade DNA as Stamets. So Hugh is probably the obvious choice for me to be the Red Angel, even though when Spock reached out to do that mind meld type thing, my mind to your mind, as he's reaching for the Red Angel, and then we cut to seeing Burnham, that is kind of like a ploy of making us think that Burnham is the Red Angel. But I think that's a ploy. I think that's completely there to confuse the viewer. His bond to Burnham, or whatever it was, the Talos kind of, well, got things out of order, and we thus thought that Burnham is the Red Angel based off of what we had saw, and that was done on purpose to confuse us, because Burnham is not the Red Angel. Hugh is. That is my prediction going forward on this. I really liked the fight between Tyler and Hugh. I loved it. Saru stands there and he's like, "No, no, let it happen." And they go to blows and they wear themselves out. And you know, as a guy, I can so relate to that scene. I don't know about you, but my best friend, that's how he became my best friend. Is we went to blows when we were teenagers, and we fought and fought and fought until we just tired ourselves out, and we laid there in a collapsed lump, laughing at each other and calling each other idiots. And after that, before that, we didn't like each other. You know, we wanted nothing to do with each other. After that, we had a newfound respect for each other, and we were able to actually, become best friends. So, yeah, very interesting, the decision in Starfleet for a Starfleet executive officer to let the fight play out. I thought it was an excellent choice on Saru's behalf. I loved how the fight wore itself out, and how there seemed to be a shedding of tensions between the two of them. And I would be impressed to maybe see if they capitalize on that further. If Tyler and Hugh don't become closer friends going forward, I'd be very impressed if that happened. So yeah, then Pike is questioning Commander Saru about his choice to let the fight play out, and I loved Saru's explanation of the decision. It was beautiful. Sadly, Pike was all uptight about it, but you know, I really could get on board with Saru's explanation, and I don't know. I'm liking new Saru without his gills. It's pretty good. Listen to how many things I've said good about Star Trek Discovery this episode. Wow. And we're gonna keep going. So Pike and Vina scene on the bridge when the Telosians were reaching out to Pike without having to go through subspace communications. I actually quite enjoyed that as well. I thought that was a really thoughtful and good scene that didn't hurt canon. In fact, it strengthened canon. It's one of the few things I've seen Discovery do in all of its existence that actually strengthened canon. And that scene where we get more of the love affair between Pike and Vina, it really helps to explain why Spock risked his career to bring Pike back to Talos 4 so he could live out the rest of his existence with Vina. And yeah, I thought it was well done. Uh, Quite impressed because this is Star Trek Discovery that's making good choices, and this is bizarre. I feel like I'm in the Twilight Zone right now as I'm saying so many good things about this episode of Star Trek Discovery. Um, of course, for some reason, we're going to decide to go to Telos 4, and I guess the choice is to use the Spore Drive because maybe it's not trackable or something, but hello, we're going to use the Spore Drive. You know, the same Spore Drive that we have already found out is killing sentient people in a different dimension, but let's use the Spore Drive? What? I don't quite understand that. I mean, yes, getting to Spock is pretty important, and getting to Burnham might be pretty important, but to risk killing sentient individuals in an alternate dimension, this is not Starfleet's way. This is not Pike's way. This doesn't compute. Let's not. When is the Spore Drive gonna die? We the Spore Drive just, it's like a sore thumb. It's like a wound, a festering wound that needs to go away. It's bad Star Trek. All right, moving on. Tyler, totally framed, completely framed on the bridge. He was set up masterfully. I was quite impressed. Obviously, our cybernetic, whatever her name is, I can't think of her name because we don't refer to the bridge staff anywhere near enough. We don't see enough of the bridge staff. We haven't had any building up of the characters of the bridge staff. Arian, that's her name, Commander Arian, framed Mr. Tyler with masterfully. It was almost Romulan-like in precision. It was really well done. So I was pretty impressed with the frame job that Commander. What was her name again? Oh yeah. I don't remember her name because again, we haven't built up these damn characters enough that we should have built up by now. But I digress. That. Oh, and then we get to the final memory that the Telosians demand in payment from Burnham. How anticlimactic, how petty, how silly. This whole great breakdown between Spock and Burnham, this oh my god, I can't face Spock, was that was one of the most petty fights I've ever seen in my life. But that caused the great rift that tore Burnham and Spock apart? Are you fucking kidding me right now? That wasn't. That was petty. And for Spock to even be concerned about that? Come on. Spock is way above that level of pettiness, and something like that would not have affected Spock. That was just one of maybe the dumbest scene in this entire episode. If there was one thing that I could point out in this episode that was so stupid, it was that scene. That, oh my god, Burnham calling him a half-breed and hurting his feelings is such such a rift. It created such a rift. No, it didn't. Spock is far better than that. That was stupidity. That was horrible, horrible writing. That wasn't even close to the level of hurt that needed to have been put on Spock to actually cause this rift. That was minor. That was an oh, you got your boo-boos hurt. That wasn't even, oh, that was stupid. But I digress. Then we get to one of the final scenes where Pike is like, okay, we're he confides with Spock. Spock's like, well, our only course of action is to run, and Pike is like, I concur. And then he turns to the bridge staff and crew, and he's like, I can't make you all do this. And Detmer, another one of the bridge staff that we know nothing about other than her name. I think the single person on the bridge I want to know something about. God damn it, I want to know some backstory about Detmer. For the love of God, I want to know backstory about Detmer. It's driving me nuts how little interaction we get with her, and she's such an interesting character. Why is her eye like that? How did she become the kick-ass pilot? I want to know more about Detmer. But yet, all we get is one-liners. A great one-liner at that. She says, course and heading, sir, to basically speak for the crew that we're all behind the Pike, that we're all with you, Captain Pike, and we're ready to go. Detmer was the first person to speak up and be like, course and heading, sir. And I like that. I like seeing Detmer get that line in, and god damn it, we need to see more about Detmer, less about Burnham. But wow, I don't know who directed this episode. I have no idea. Maybe this was Jonathan Frakes, and I didn't realize he directed this episode. Though this wasn't very Jonathan Frakes like either. This was. Are you guys ready for this? This was the best episode of the season. That's why the smiley face with the thumbs up is there, is that this is the first episode of Star Trek Discovery to date in season 1 and season 2 that has ever gone past 5.5 out of 10. The Jonathan Frakes episode earlier in the season, I gave a 5.5 out of 10. I thought it was a very good improvement upon Star Trek Discovery, but this is almost up to like a 7 out of 10. This is what I expect Star Trek Discovery to be every episode. This is what Star Trek Discovery should be. This is quality Star Trek. This is exactly the way Star Trek should be done every single episode. This is what Star Trek is. Trekkies. This is the example. This is how it's supposed to be. I'm not a Star Trek Discovery hater. I will talk when something is done right, and this was done right. I'm pointing it out to all you people that have been calling me haters. This is why. This is what I expect Star Trek to be, not the shit we've gotten before this. So take that and shove it up your craw, because this is quality Star Trek, and it's about frickin' time we've seen a little bit of it. Number 1 episode of the entire 2 seasons right here. I'm impressed. And I'm James Johnson. This is my channel. I hope you enjoy my content. Leave a like, subscribe, all of that jazz. And until next time, peace.